Hi everybody, it's Cindy from Ask Nurse Cindy. How are you all tonight? I'm continuing on with my ABCs of ketogenic eating, and today our topic is the letter D. And there's so many D's. You guys have been so great over on my Facebook page. I don't know if you guys can see this, all my scribbling. I was supposed to be paying attention in church to the message, but I'm a bad girl. I was a bad girl on Sunday. But anyway, D. So the main topic of what we're going to talk about all the wonderful D's you guys sent me so far is determination and double chin, getting rid of it. One was hilarious. It was vegetables instead of vegetables. We'll get to vegetables when we get to V. But today, this is so vital for so many people. Over 1/3 of the American population has this problem, whether they know it or not, and that's diabetes. And so our biggest D is diabetes. The next D is diet. And can one thing impact the other? If you're diabetic, does it impact what you eat? And if you are eating a certain diet, I don't mean a weight loss program, but what we consume to fuel our bodies, does the diet we ingest, does the food that we choose, do the foods that we choose to eat impact our chance of getting type 2 diabetes? Here's the spoiler alert. Yes and yes. What is type 2 diabetes? Type 2 diabetes is very different from type 1 diabetes. All right? Type 2 diabetes, I want you to think of it. I've got some videos. If you scroll back, I've got like over 50 videos here on this channel. If you scroll back, you're going to see videos such as what is diabetes. You're going to see a video on how can what you eat impact your hemoglobin A1C, or short A1C for short. But today I want to talk just real briefly about the letter D and how diabetes is literally decimating, I'm so cute with all my D's, our healthcare. It's decimating our health. It's decimating even young people. It used to be unheard of for a young person to be diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. It's very often used to be called juvenile diabetes. Type 1 diabetes used to be called juvenile, and now it's called type 1 because you literally, in essence, and hi you guys as you're hopping on, in essence you do not produce insulin in your pancreas. The pancreas sort of been wiped out, typically by an autoimmune infection or an autoimmune response to an infection. But type 2 diabetes is what I want to talk to you about because it truly is at epidemic proportions. Here I'm going to make it really simple. It's a very complex disease, and it affects every single organ in our bodies. Everything from our eyes to our liver to our kidneys to the circulation to our feet to our brain. It infects everything, and guess what? It's not a contagious disease. You can pass on strep throat, you can pass on the flu, you can pass on pneumonia person to person. But in some ways you can pass on type 2 diabetes. Why do people say, well, it's in my family? I'm just going to get it because it's just, we've got a strong family history of it. Typically because you guys, I don't want to say you guys, because in my family, we were all headed for or diabetic at the time that we started ketogenic eating. My hemoglobin A1C was 6.2, which means I was basically the beginning stages of type 2 diabetes. But why does it tend to run in families? Because we tend to grow up eating the same foods, and we tend to encourage our siblings and our spouses. We tend to eat the same foods. So the best way to describe diabetes, I'm going to make it an example, and it's a very high-level example. Those of you that have a medical background, do not kick the tires on this example. It's just a bus to try to get us somewhere. I want you to think of diabetes and how what you eat giving you diabetes, just like someone that might have a peanut allergy or someone that has a shellfish. If you've ever met anybody that either has a peanut allergy or a shellfish allergy, it is extremely serious and it is life-threatening. And if they consume peanuts or shellfish or both, if they're so unfortunate to have a problem with that, they can have what's called an anaphylactic response, where the body goes into such an ejection and inflammation mode that their throat closes up and they die. Now, our eating carbohydrates is the consumption, I should say, of carbohydrates going to cause you to keel over dead immediately. With type 2 diabetes, of course not. That's one of the scary things about type 2 diabetes, is that it's very silent. It's very hidden. And many people can have type 2 diabetes for years and years and years and never know until there's actually damage to the organs. So what I want you to consider is that type 2 diabetes is the body's inability to process carbohydrates, not to the severity that a peanut allergy sufferer cannot process peanuts, but in essence, your body has lost the ability to have a normal response to glucose or carbohydrate ingestion, because the actual definition of diabetes is the inability of the body to keep the blood sugar, or blood glucose is the actual medical terminology, at a level keel. So we're supposed to have somewhere, our blood sugar reading should be somewhere under 100 if we're fasted. Somewhere between 70 and 99 is good if you're fasted. After a meal, which is called postprandial, somewhere up to 2 hours after a meal, you're going to have a normal spike of your blood glucose because your body's digesting what it's eaten. And what's going to happen is a blood sugar going up for a short period of time after you eat is normal. It's what happens as you digest these foods. But it should come back down pretty quickly. With diabetes, type 2 diabetes, because we're talking about the word D, your diet, the food that you put in your mouth, will basically give you diabetes. You're not going to catch a cold and become diabetic, but you can over time. And I've learned all this in the past 2 years. Trust me, it may sound like I'm preaching, but I'm preaching to myself and to my family. My family's down over 900 pounds. I'm down right at 75 pounds. My hemoglobin A1C, which is how you take a snapshot of a time-lapse photography of the last 3 months of what your overall blood glucose has been, and my 6.2 A1C meant that my average blood glucose was in the 150 to 160 range, and now it's down to 5.4. Still needs to get down a little bit lower, but since I'd been overweight for 59 years, and am still struggling with that last 20 pounds, to have made that rapid of a change for my fasting insulin level to be down to 2.4 is dramatic. It's just a tremendous change. And how have I done it? Have I done it with cutting-edge pharmaceuticals? Have I done it with rigorous exercise where I've hired a personal trainer and I basically, if I'm not sleeping or working, I'm in the gym? No. I've done it through diet. I've done it through education and listening to amazing podcasts. And you don't have to believe me that what you eat can impact if you get diabetes, what drugs you may or may not have to take for that. You can look at folks like Dr. Eric Westman from Duke University, who gets, I think it's about 90% of all of his patients off of all diabetes meds within 3 months, I think. And the Virta people, VIRTA. Look at what Dr. Sarah Hallbery and Dr. Stephen Phinney are doing for people where this study that they published where I think it was 60% of the people were able to get off their diabetes meds. When you eat peanuts, you have to use your EpiPen if you have peanut allergies. When you eat glucose, especially in excessive amounts, especially processed sugars, and you can no longer tolerate them and metabolize them like you used to, you are going to have an elevated blood sugar and you'll have to take the drugs eventually. And that diet and its relationship to the diabetes will cause a horrible problem, a horrible cascade of problems. I've been a nurse for 40 years. I deal in wound care. One of the most common complications someone with diabetes gets is called a diabetic foot ulcer. They end up with diabetic neuropathy. So I think more than anything tonight, I want you to know there's so much information out there. Virta Health has lots of information. Adapt Your Life with Dr. Eric Westman, Dr. Stephen Phinney, Dr. Jeffrey Vollet, Dr. Jeffrey Gerber, Dr. Ken Berry, Dr. Heather Cardin, Dr. Adam Nally, Jimmy Moore, etc. There is so much wonderful information out there. And it just makes sense. If the definition of diabetes is that I have an elevated blood sugar because I can no longer move that sugar out of my bloodstream into my cells or use it as energy effectively, doesn't it make sense that I should adjust the sugar I'm eating, the carbohydrates I'm eating, so I can not have that problem? I don't think we would ever tell someone with a peanut allergy, have that PBJ and just take that EpiPen. Yet we tell diabetics all the time, have that cake, just cover yourself with insulin. Sort of backwards, isn't it? If you have not seen the TED Talk by Dr. Sarah Hallberg, Hallberg, that's the one that my sister Debbie Stokes sent me, that really, I watched that and I was like, come on, I have been upside down in how I think about what I eat. I have been upside down as a nurse and as the mother of a type 1 diabetic. I have been doing it all wrong because I followed the standard American Diabetes Association plan to have the carbs, cover them with insulin, have that PBJ, take an epi shot, have that shrimp cocktail, just take a shot. Eventually the EpiPen's not going to do it. So D is for diabetes. It's for diet, because the diet, what we eat, gives instructions to our body. And if we want to reduce our blood sugar, it makes sense to follow a lower carbohydrate diet, not a no carbohydrate eating plan. Good green leafy vegetables, nuts, some seeds, lots of good healthy meats. Let me look at some of our other D's. So I hope that makes sense. When you first start following a ketogenic or low carb diet, if you are diabetic, be very, very, very careful, especially if you're on insulin. I'm pretty sure Dr. Eric Westman, if you watch some of his videos, what he does is he takes people, he cuts their insulin in half and has them, trying to remember, you can look at his videos, don't trust what I'm saying about that, but don't go this alone if you are diabetic and you're on medications, because you'll have severe hypoglycemia, which is a low blood sugar reaction. So D is for diabetes, it's for diet. The drugs you take for diabetes control is basically blood sugar control. So why spend $1,000 for one vial of insulin when you can simply spend that money eating good, healthy foods, avoiding the processed foods, and you'll find that your appetite really goes down. You guys gave me so many D's. I hope this makes sense. I'll post some links. I'm figuring out YouTube, but I'll post the links. Let's see. These are some of the things you can have. You can have duck. You can have dill pickles. I'm looking at some of the different things that you guys gave me. Delmonico steaks, deviled eggs. You can have dips. And it is decadent. This is a decadent way of eating. I call it my lush way of eating. L stands for lower your carbs. The U stands for up your fats. The S is satisfying amounts of protein. It's not a high protein diet. And the H is a healthy, happy you. This lush, decadent way of eating helps with so many things. It helps with mood control. It helps with depression. There's some great YouTube videos and articles out there and blogs about how when you stop over-consuming carbohydrates, that your mood lifts, that depression is lifted, that anxiety is reduced. So don't believe me, go out and read. You will help reduce the damage from excessive inflammation in your body. There's some really interesting work on reduction of dementia symptoms. So there's so many D's that we could talk about, both in food and in what we, DKA. If you are following a low-carb diet, you are going to go into what's called nutritional ketosis. Now, many people in the medical community, unfortunately, don't understand that ketosis, when I'm choosing to put myself into it nutritionally, is very, very different from DKA. DKA stands for diabetic ketoacidosis, and it happens, we had to watch my daughter who's type 1, especially when she was younger. She was diagnosed at age 3. She couldn't really articulate to us what was going on. So in the absence of insulin and elevated ketones, because without insulin, you can't metabolize and get the sugar out of the glucose out of the bloodstream into the cells. So the cells starve. They break down fat to fuel themselves, which is what happens in nutritional ketosis. But in nutritional ketosis, we have an excess of insulin. We have plenty of insulin. But diabetic ketoacidosis only happens in diabetics with total lack of insulin, and therefore the cells are breaking down the fat, turning it into ketones, while you have no insulin. And so there's not that counter check, or the checks and balances that keep nutritional ketosis from becoming acidotic. Totally different things. Lots of YouTube videos out there. I think I even have a video that I did probably a year and a half ago, or so ago. I can't even talk. Oh, and D for drink your water. Drink your water, especially if you're just starting. You're going to lose 4 grams of water for every gram of carbohydrates that you drop. So in other words, if you're used to eating 400 grams of carbs a day and you go down to 20, you're going to diurese or urinate out, pee out many, many, many liters, and you're going to find yourself running to the bathroom a lot. When you lose the urine or remove that edema that's been hanging out, you're going to lose sodium as well, and you'll get a hyponatremia or low blood sodium. And that's going to make you feel lightheaded. Your heart will race. You'll feel very tired and lethargic. You'll have a massive headache. Drink the water, but you've got to supplement your sodium if that's what you're going through. So it's called the keto flu, but it's not the flu at all. It's just an electrolyte imbalance, which we'll cover E for electrolytes in our next video. So your doctors may or may not understand the value of low carb. Here's what I have found because I'm around doctors all the time, and a lot of them will notice, or reps will notice, that I've lost so much weight, and they've known me. Been with the same company 26 years, and I'll say, oh my God, what have you been doing? Depending on my relationship and depending on how much time I have, I may tell them I'm doing low carb, but many times what I'll do, just to sort of test the waters out and see how they feel, is I say, I found that I wasn't responding well to glucose and to processed sugary foods. So I've dropped those out, and I'm now consuming more whole foods. And nobody has ever said, oh, that's horrible, you should go back to your chocolate frosted flakes and your ho-hos. Nobody's ever said that. All right, so don't freak them out. If you don't want to get into it, don't. So anyway, that's it for me. That is the D's. There's so many D's here that I was scribbling. I can't even read all of them. But you will help have less damage to your body when we have excess glucose in our bloodstream. Sugar is sticky. Ever try to get a lollipop out of a kid's hair? I hope it's not actually in their head. But sugar sticks to protein, both on the outside of our skin or in our hair, and it sticks to the proteins inside of our body, the lining of our arterial tree, our joints, in our brain. It sticks and causes inflammation, like having little bitty splinters. So you can do what's called damage control by dropping your carbohydrates via your diet and totally reducing the chance you'll develop diabetes, or giving yourself a great opportunity under proper medical supervision to come off so many of the drugs that you're on. And every drug that is out there, including something as simple as an aspirin, has potential side effects. So when we can live a more natural lifestyle without dependence on a lot of drugs, you're going to find that you're going to have a much higher quality of life. So this is Cindy from Ask Nurse Cindy. I'm not a doctor. I'm certainly not your doctor. I'm not here to diagnose, treat, or cure, or give you specific medical advice. I'm here to share with you my journey and what I found works for me. I don't see a way that I can see any of the chats that you guys, if anybody's been posting questions, I will come back and try to answer as many as I can. My daughter Rachel D and her husband Justin and the baby Noah are going to be here on Friday, so we'll do some keto extravaganza videos and spend a lot of time with you guys. So you have a great night. D is for diabetes, diet, and drugs, and all sorts of things, but with determination and the understanding of what you put in your mouth, you can control, and it will impact your blood glucose, is a tremendous benefit. I hope you share this. I hope you feel free to post it on your Facebook page, on your social media pages. You guys are awesome. I love spending time with you, but I have to go change sheets for bed because I got my grandbaby coming. You guys have a great night. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.